The wind whispers across the endless Eurasian steppe, a land of ghosts and forgotten empires. From this vastness emerged a shadow so formidable it made Rome itself tremble, the Hunnic Empire. They were a storm of horse and steel that reshaped continents, yet when the dust settled, they vanished, leaving behind almost nothing. Their story is a puzzle missing nearly all its pieces. But a few tantalizing clues remain. We are about to uncover 25 of their most mysterious relics, artifacts that archaeologists are still desperately trying to decipher. These objects hold the locked-away secrets of their culture, their spiritual beliefs, and the terrifying military might that conquered nations. How did a nomadic power with no written history build such a formidable empire? What can a single golden stag or a warped skull truly tell us? By the end of this journey, you will see the Huns not as faceless barbarians, but as a complex civilization revealed through the things they left behind. What does a vanished empire leave behind to tell its story? Buried for centuries, a golden stag emerges from the earth. It was one of 23 breathtaking gold vessels discovered by a farmer in 1799 near Nagyszentmiklós, a treasure so rich it seemed like a legend come to life. The most famous piece is a rhyton, a ceremonial drinking vessel fashioned entirely into the form of a powerful stag. Its body is a masterpiece of ancient metallurgy, covered in intricate patterns and smaller animal figures, telling a story in gold that we can only partially read. This was not mere wealth, this was a sacred object. For the steppe peoples, the stag was far more than just an animal. It was a celestial messenger, a psychopomp that guided souls to the afterlife, and a symbol of royal authority and spiritual power. The creature's antlers, reaching for the heavens, connected the earthly realm to the world of the gods. To drink from such a vessel was to partake in a ritual, to commune with the divine. Yet the golden stag is shrouded in its own mystery. Its style is a fusion, showing clear Hellenistic and Persian influences alongside its nomadic core. This has led to a centuries-long debate among scholars. Is this a pure Hunnic artifact created at the height of their empire, or was it made by another culture, perhaps the Avars or Bulgars, who moved into the same territories after the Huns faded away? The stag stands as a beautiful, silent witness to the great challenge of Hunnic archaeology. It embodies the cultural melting pot of the steppes, where identities blurred and artistic traditions merged, leaving us to wonder whose hands truly fashioned this golden king of the forest. But that golden stag speaks of ceremony and spirit, a world away from the battlefield. Another relic, pulled from the earth near the town of Caesarna, brings us directly into the heart of Hunnic warfare. It is a helmet, an iron war helm of a design so unique it stands almost alone in the archaeological record. Unlike the simple, functional headgear of many steppe warriors, the Caesarna helmet is a masterpiece of the metalworker's art. Its domed frame is constructed from iron bands riveted together, a technique that provided both strength and surprising lightness, but it is the decoration that truly captivates. The entire surface is covered in delicate punched patterns and ornate gold foil appliques, a shimmering tapestry of geometric shapes and stylized motifs. This helmet is a physical argument against the old idea of the Huns as simple barbarians. Its very design is a conversation between two worlds. The construction method, with its riveted bands, shows clear influences from the workshops of the late Roman Empire. Yet the artistic language, the swirling patterns, and the way the gold catches the light is purely that of the nomadic steppe. This was not a piece of looted Roman armor. It was a bespoke object commissioned and worn by a high-ranking Hunnic chieftain who understood the value of Roman engineering but insisted on proclaiming his own cultural identity. He was adopting and adapting, taking the best military technology from the empires he fought and refining it with the artistry of his own people. This single helmet proves that the Hunnic elite were not just brilliant cavalry commanders, they were sophisticated leaders who understood the power of symbols and the importance of technological exchange. It forces us to ask, what other secrets of their complex society have we simply failed to uncover? That ornate helmet belonged to a man of immense power, but his authority rested ultimately on the weapon he carried into battle. Across the Eurasian steppe, the very name Hun was synonymous with one terrifying object, the composite bow. This was not a simple stave of wood. It was a piece of ancient engineering genius, a symphony of materials working in perfect, deadly harmony. The evidence for this legendary weapon survives not as a whole bow, but in small, enigmatic pieces of bone known as laths, like those from the Pannonian collection. These laths were not the bow itself, they were its reinforcement, its skeleton. A Hunnic bow was built from a core of wood, laminated with sinew on the back and horn on the belly. The sinew, when dry, stores immense energy for the release, while the horn resists compression. This combination created a weapon of shocking power and range, far exceeding anything the Romans typically faced. And at the critical stress points, the handle and the tips, the Huns glued these carefully sculpted bone plates. They were the keystones of the entire system, preventing the powerful layers from splitting apart under the incredible strain of being drawn. The shape of each lath was a precise calculation of physics, designed to manage the transfer of energy from the archer's pull to the arrow's flight. To hold a complete Hunnic bow was to hold a coiled spring, a stored tempest waiting to be unleashed. Yet here lies the great mystery: we have never found one. Not a single complete Hunnic bow has survived the centuries. The organic materials, the wood, sinew, and animal glue, have all returned to the earth. All that remains of the weapon that reshaped Europe are these small, hard bone laths scattered in graves across the continent. They are the ghostly imprint of a vanished superweapon. These silent pieces of worked bone are what we must use to reconstruct the terrifying reality of Hunnic archery. How do you rebuild a legend from its smallest, most fragmented pieces? The silent bone laths of their bows are only one piece of the warrior's story. To understand the full measure of a Hunnic noble, we must look inside a single, opulent grave. In the quiet earth of Untersebenbrunn, Austria, archaeologists uncovered a burial that speaks volumes, a collection of 3 powerful relics buried together. The first is a long, straight iron sword. This was not the curved saber we often associate with later steppe warriors. Its blade is double-edged and rigid, a design that points its origins far to the east, deep into Central Asia. This sword was a symbol of supreme authority, a weapon for a chieftain who commanded from the front lines. Its very presence in a European grave tells a story of vast distances traveled and a cultural identity fiercely maintained. Buried beside the sword was a massive bronze cauldron, large enough to feed an entire warband. This was the heart of nomadic social life. Feasting from such a vessel was not merely about sustenance. It was a sacred act of unity, a ritual that bound warriors to their leader through shared meat and drink. These cauldrons were also central to sacrifices, a means of communicating with the gods by offering them the steam and essence of the meal. The third object seems, at first glance, strangely personal, a polished bronze mirror. But for the steppe peoples, a mirror was far more than a tool for vanity. It was a potent spiritual object, a capture of light and reflection believed to have the power to see into other worlds. In the hands of a shaman, it could be a portal to the spirit realm. As a symbol, its circular, shining face was often connected to the sun and the moon, a guide for the soul's journey into the afterlife. Together, this trio forms a complete picture of a Hunnic leader's existence. The sword for his earthly power, the cauldron for his social and ritual authority, and the mirror for his spiritual duties. He was a warrior, a chieftain, and a spiritual guide all at once. These 3 relics, resting together for centuries, force us to abandon any simple notion of the Huns as mere raiders. Their society was layered with a deep and complex understanding of power that wove together the military, the communal, and the divine. Deep within the forests of Romania, a treasure of almost mythical scale was unearthed. The Pietrosa hoard, a collection of stunning gold artifacts, was discovered in the 1830s, a find so magnificent it was immediately linked to Gothic kings. Yet the story is not so simple. The sheer style and craftsmanship of these objects whisper of a different, more complex origin, one deeply entangled with the Hunnic elite who dominated the Goths. The most captivating piece from this hoard is the object known as the hen with golden chicks. It is a large, round brooch of solid gold, centered by a magnificent hen, surrounded by a dozen smaller chicks, all exquisitely rendered with fine granulation and filigree work. This was not just jewelry, it was a statement of immense power, but what kind of power? Some scholars argue it was a royal insignia, a badge of office for a queen or a high priestess, its maternal symbolism representing protection and lineage. Others see it as a ceremonial object used in sacred rites, perhaps related to a sun cult, with the hen as a solar deity and the chicks as the orbiting days of the year. Another compelling theory suggests it was a tribute item, a magnificent gift given by a subservient Gothic ruler to a Hunnic overlord to secure peace or favor. The object's true purpose remains one of archaeology's great debates. Its mystery was only compounded by a tragic modern chapter. The entire Pietrosa treasure was stolen in the last century, and during its recovery, the hen with golden chicks was badly damaged, its delicate chicks bent and broken. This violence inflicted upon it centuries after its creation adds a layer of poignant mystery to its already enigmatic presence. It has survived the fall of empires and the greed of men, yet it still refuses to give up its deepest secret. Among the golden treasures and iron weapons, perhaps no relic of the Huns is more unsettling than the human body itself. Across Europe, archaeologists have uncovered skeletons with dramatically elongated, cone-shaped skulls, a result of deliberate and careful modification begun in early infancy. This was not a genetic trait but a cultural practice. The soft, pliable skull of a newborn was tightly bound with cloth bands, sometimes between two rigid boards, gently guiding the growing bone into this extraordinary shape over the first few years of life. The result was a permanent, unmistakable mark of identity. But why would an entire culture choose such a radical physical transformation? The theories are as varied as they are fascinating. For some, it was the ultimate symbol of nobility. By altering the body from birth, the elite literally set themselves apart, their very heads shaped differently from commoners and slaves. It was a living crown, a sign of belonging to a ruling class that could not be forged or stolen. For others, the motivation was far more visceral, a weapon of psychological warfare. Imagine a Hunnic warrior on his horse, his head stretched into an almost supernatural silhouette. To the terrified Roman legions who faced them, these were not men. They were monsters, a race of demons from the steppe whose very appearance sowed fear and confusion before the first arrow was ever fired. This practice forces us into a difficult ethical conversation today. These are not just artifacts, they are human remains. The display of these distorted skulls in museums, often separated from their cultural context, raises profound questions. Are we honoring a fascinating cultural practice, or are we gawking at the physical differences of the deceased? Modern archaeology strives to treat these remains with the respect they deserve, studying them not as curiosities but as windows into the complex minds of the Huns, a people so determined to define themselves that they reshaped the very bodies of their children. What does it say about a society that its most powerful statement was written not in gold or steel, but in bone? Far to the east, in the frozen heights of the Altai Mountains, a different kind of relic was waiting. She is known as the Siberian Ice Maiden, a woman of the Pazyryk culture who was laid to rest in a tomb of permafrost over 2,000 years ago. Though not a Hun herself, she offers us something profoundly valuable, a frozen window into the very world from which the Huns emerged. Her people were cultural cousins, sharing the same vast steppe heritage, and her burial, preserved in ice for centuries, is a time capsule of stunning detail. Her skin was covered in intricate tattoos of mythical stags and griffins, animals of power and spirit that we know also populated the symbolic world of the Huns from their metalwork. She wore a tall, elaborate headdress and fine woolen clothing, demonstrating a level of artistry and status that shatters any lingering stereotype of nomadic life as crude or simple. The parallels are uncanny. The animal-style art, the importance of the stag, the use of felt and wool, even the practice of tattooing, all resonate with what we know of the Huns from scattered Roman accounts and rare archaeological finds. The Ice Maiden's people had the same composite bows, used the same bronze cauldrons for ritual feasts, and held similar beliefs about the spirit world. She shows us that the Huns were not an anomaly. They were the heirs to a rich and sophisticated steppe civilization, a culture with deep artistic traditions and complex spiritual beliefs that traveled with them all the way to the gates of Rome. Her preserved existence asks us a haunting question. If we could see a high-ranking Hun as clearly as we see her, with their tattoos, their clothing, and their personal ornaments, how much of our history would we have to rewrite? From the frozen tombs of the Altai, we turn to a relic of a different kind, one not forged from gold but from words and wax. Historical records speak of a small lead seal, a bulla, bearing the name of King Ruga, the uncle of Attila, and a powerful Hunnic leader in his own right. This unassuming object, if genuine, would be a historical thunderclap. It is one of the very few physical artifacts that directly names a Hunnic ruler, moving these figures out of the pages of Roman chronicles and into tangible reality. A seal like this was a tool of statecraft. It was pressed into warm wax to authenticate official documents, to seal treaties, or to grant safe passage to envoys. Its mere existence suggests a level of bureaucratic organization that we rarely attribute to the Huns. It implies that Ruga was not just a warlord leading a horde, but a king engaged in the complex dance of diplomacy, someone who needed to send verifiable commands across vast distances. This tiny piece of lead argues that the Hunnic Empire had an administrative structure, however rudimentary, that operated with recognized symbols of authority. Yet the seal of Ruga is shrouded in as much debate as it is in significance. Its provenance is unclear, and some scholars have questioned its authenticity, wondering if it is a later forgery or perhaps a seal from a different Ruga entirely. The debate itself is telling. It highlights our desperate search for any direct connection to these shadowy figures and the difficulty of trusting an object that has passed through so many hands over the centuries. If it is real, it forces us to redraw our mental image of the early Hunnic court. We must picture scribes, messengers, and formal correspondence, a world where power was projected not only by the bowstring but also by the stamp of a king's seal. What other sophisticated systems of control have we missed, simply because they left no ruins behind? While the seal of Ruga hints at a forgotten bureaucracy, the legend of Attila himself revolves around a single lost cup. Medieval chroniclers wrote of a magnificent jeweled chalice, a drinking vessel of such splendor that it became a symbol of the scourge of God's insatiable greed. According to the stories, this was the cup of Attila, taken by the king as plunder from a Roman palace or given as tribute by a terrified emperor. It was said to be encrusted with gems and fashioned from a single piece of polished stone or precious metal, an object so magnificent it embodied the vast wealth the Huns had extracted from a trembling Europe. The original, if it ever existed, vanished without a trace, lost in the chaos that followed Attila's death. Yet the myth of his treasure proved far more durable than the treasure itself. For centuries, any spectacular ancient cup discovered in Europe risked being labeled as the legendary chalice of the Hun. The most famous misidentification is the so-called Cup of Theodosius, a breathtaking agate bowl carved in the late Roman period. This exquisite object, with its finely carved figures, is a masterpiece of imperial Roman stone cutting. It has absolutely nothing to do with Attila or the Huns. But its sheer beauty and obvious value made it a perfect candidate for a desperate, romantic hope to connect a tangible object to a mythical name. This confusion reveals a profound truth about how we remember the Huns. The historical Attila becomes blurred with the legend, a figure so larger than life that we feel he must have left behind a physical token of his power. The endless search for his cup is not really about finding a piece of gold or agate. It is about our own desire to hold a piece of the myth, to touch the reality of a man who became a monster in the stories of his enemies. What does it say about us that we need a chalice to prove a king existed when his actions already reshaped the map of the world? The legend of a lost king's cup speaks of stolen wealth, but a far more profound relic lies not in gold but in the silent, sacred ground of a Hunnic tomb. Across the grasslands they once ruled, archaeologists have uncovered graves where a warrior is laid to rest not alone, but with his most trusted companion. These horse sacrifice burials reveal a spiritual world where death was not an end but a journey. The ritual was deliberate and deeply symbolic. A single horse, often the warrior's own steed, was carefully positioned within the burial chamber or in a separate pit right beside its master. It was not merely discarded. The animal was typically placed on its side, its legs often arranged as if in motion, its head pointing in the same direction as the human remains. This was a preparation for a voyage. For the nomadic peoples of the steppe, the horse was everything. It was transportation, status, and a partner in survival and conquest. But in death, its role became even more critical. The afterlife was believed to be a vast spectral landscape, a continuation of the earthly planes. A soul could not be expected to traverse that infinite expanse on foot. The sacrificed horse was a necessary vehicle, provided by the living to ensure the deceased could complete their final journey with the dignity and speed they possessed in life. This was the ultimate companion, a loyal friend provided for eternity. The act of sacrifice itself was likely a solemn offering, a gift to the gods to secure safe passage. To bury such a valuable asset, the very foundation of their power and mobility, demonstrates how deeply they believed in the world to come. This ritual forces us to see beyond the battlefield. It shows a culture with a rich, complex understanding of the soul's journey, where the bond between a warrior and his horse was so sacred it was meant to transcend death itself. What greater proof of loyalty could there be than this final, silent partnership in the grave? While the sacrifice of a horse reveals a spiritual bond, another set of relics offers a glimpse into the very structure of Hunnic society. Scratched onto the surface of a bronze cauldron or carved into a stone on the open steppe, we find the enigmatic tamgas. These are not pictures of animals or people. They are stark, geometric symbols, a language of pure abstraction. A tamga was a clan emblem, a unique property mark that functioned like a signature or a brand. It could be stamped onto a weapon to denote its owner, etched onto a belt buckle to proclaim lineage, or carved onto a boundary stone to mark the territory controlled by a specific family or tribe. This was a system of identification that operated entirely without words. Deciphering this silent language is one of the most frustrating challenges in Hunnic archaeology. Each symbol is a potential key, a direct link to a specific chieftain, a bloodline, or a political alliance. If we could only read them, we could map the social and political landscape of the entire empire. We could trace the rise and fall of great families, understand how territory was divided and controlled, and perhaps even follow the movements of specific clans as they migrated across the continent. Yet without a Hunnic Rosetta Stone, a bilingual inscription that pairs these symbols with a language we understand, the tamgas remain stubbornly mute. We can group similar symbols and note their geographical spread, but we cannot attach names to them. We see a recurring mark on cauldrons from the Danube to the Volga, and we know it signifies a powerful, widespread clan, but we will never know what they called themselves. These abstract shapes are the ultimate paradox. They are everywhere, a constant, visible reminder of a complex social order, yet they guard their secrets completely. They are the silent language of a lost people, a code written in steel and stone that we can see but cannot read. What stories of loyalty, power, and identity are locked within these simple, elegant lines? From the silent language of clan symbols, we now find a voice in swirling, serpentine form. In the ancient Roman province of Pannonia, a land the Huns once dominated, a small but breathtaking object was unearthed, a finely crafted bronze ornament that seems to writhe with life. Often called the dragon ornament, it is a masterpiece of stylized art, a creature caught between a serpent and a winged beast, its body a fluid curve of intricate patterns and coiled energy. This was not a simple piece of jewelry. Its design and sturdy construction suggest it was likely a decoration for a horse's harness, a proud emblem placed at the chest or bridle of a chieftain's most prized warhorse. Imagine that steed charging into battle, the polished bronze of this dragon-shaped piece flashing in the sun, a terrifying and magnificent sight. As a personal adornment, perhaps worn as a brooch or a pendant, it would have been a direct declaration of the wearer's identity and power. But what kind of power did this dragon represent? For the steppe peoples, the serpentine dragon was not a monster of evil, but a creature of immense strength, a guardian of hidden knowledge and the watery depths beneath the earth. It was a symbol of protection, a talisman to ward off malevolent spirits on the long journeys across the open plains. This particular dragon may have represented a specific mythological creature from Hunnic folklore, a story of a world serpent or a sky dragon that has been completely lost to us. The ornament is a physical echo of a myth we can no longer hear. It reminds us that their world was populated by a rich pantheon of spiritual beings, whose stories were told not in books, but in the metalwork they wore and the tales whispered around campfires. This small bronze dragon is all that remains of a forgotten legend, a silent roar from a world of belief that vanished into the wind. That small bronze dragon speaks of a rich, internal world of myth, but another relic reveals a connection to the world beyond the steppe. Deep within a chieftain's burial mound, far from the workshops of the Mediterranean, archaeologists found something that did not belong, a delicate Roman glass bowl. It rests there, a fragile bubble of imported luxury amidst the rugged local artifacts of iron and bronze. This was not war plunder taken in a raid on a frontier town. Its placement was too careful, its condition too pristine. This bowl was a treasured possession, deliberately placed in the grave to accompany a powerful leader into the afterlife. Its presence tells a story far more nuanced than simple conflict, revealing a hidden network of exchange that operated even as empires clashed. The Hunnic elite did not just take from Rome by force, they also acquired through trade and diplomacy. Roman merchants, or perhaps official envoys bearing gifts, would have carried such delicate items along ancient routes, trading them for the very things that sustained the Hunnic economy: horses, furs, and slaves. For a Hunnic chieftain, owning this bowl was a supreme status symbol. It was proof of his reach and influence, a tangible connection to the sophisticated, settled civilization he both fought and admired. To drink from Roman glass was to signal that you were a player on a world stage, a man who understood the value of things from beyond the horizon. This single, translucent object shatters the simplistic image of barbarians at the gate. It shows us a relationship built not only on fear and violence, but also on a mutual, if tense, recognition. The Huns were not just destroyers of Rome, they were also its customers, selectively adopting the trappings of imperial luxury to enhance their own power and prestige among their people. What does it say about a warrior king that his most prized possessions included not just his sword, but a piece of fragile, beautiful glass from his greatest enemy? The Roman glass bowl speaks of trade and status, but another set of relics hints at something even more revolutionary, a written voice. Scattered across Eastern Europe and Central Asia, on the surface of a broken pot or the face of a solitary cliff, we find the runiform inscriptions. These are not the abstract symbols of clan tamgas. These are sequences of carefully carved characters that look strikingly similar to the runes used by Germanic peoples like the Goths. They possess all the hallmarks of a true writing system, with distinct letters and an apparent structure. The discovery of even a single complete sentence in a Hunnic language would be an archaeological earthquake. It would allow us to hear their history from their own perspective, not filtered through the fear and prejudice of Roman historians. We could finally learn what they called themselves, the names of their gods, and the true story of their empire in their own words. This is the tantalizing possibility that has haunted linguists for over a century. Yet these inscriptions remain utterly silent. The debate over their origin is one of the most heated in all of ancient history. One school of thought argues passionately that this is indeed a native Hunnic script developed to manage the complex affairs of their vast empire. They point to the unique character forms that differ from known Germanic runes, suggesting an independent creation. The opposing view holds that this is a borrowed script, likely adopted from the Goths who lived under Hunnic rule. In this theory, a Hunnic chieftain, needing to communicate with his diverse subjects or record tribute, would have employed a Gothic scribe who used his own familiar alphabet to write words in the Hunnic tongue. This would mean the script is Germanic, but the language hidden within it is the lost speech of the steppe. Without a bilingual key, a Hunnic Rosetta Stone, we cannot prove either theory. We are left staring at these cryptic marks, knowing they are language, feeling the presence of meaning just beneath the surface, but completely unable to access it. They are the ultimate tease, a whisper from the past that we can see but cannot hear. What profound truths about their laws, their leaders, and their legends are trapped forever in these unreadable lines? A shattered silver plate pieced together from fragments tells a story in polished metal. Believed to be of Hunnic origin, its surface is a chaotic tapestry of figures and motion, a frozen moment of what seems to be a great battle or an epic hunt. The scene is one of pure, dynamic energy. Mounted archers, their bodies twisted in the act of firing, let loose arrows at a crowd of figures on foot. The horses are captured mid-gallop, their muscles taut, conveying a breathtaking sense of speed and power. The artistry is stark and forceful, prioritizing action and impact over fine detail. This is not a calm, classical frieze. It is a whirlwind of conflict, a celebration of martial prowess etched into precious metal. But who are these figures, and what is the true nature of their struggle? The central question is whether we are looking at a historical battle against a rival tribe or a Roman army, or if this depicts a mythical hunt, a symbolic conquest over the forces of nature. In the steppe tradition, the two were often intertwined. A successful hunt proved a leader's skill and courage, mirroring his abilities in war. The lone warrior bringing down a great stag was not just feeding his people, he was demonstrating the same focus and deadliness required to defeat a human enemy. This plate, then, is a powerful piece of propaganda. It shows how the Hunnic elite wanted to see themselves and how they wished to be portrayed to others, not as chaotic destroyers, but as masters of the horse and bow, triumphant in their chosen domain of conflict. They are the central, active force in the narrative, the heroes of their own story. This self-made image, crafted in their own artistic style, challenges the one-dimensional portrait drawn by their terrified enemies. It reveals a culture that valued strength, skill, and decisive action above all else, and took great care to commemorate those values in the most durable mediums they could afford. What other triumphs, both real and symbolic, did they record that have since been lost to time? While the silver plate roars with the chaos of battle, a much quieter relic reveals a different kind of power. Tucked into the folds of a warrior's burial shroud, archaeologists have found small, exquisitely worked amulets of crystal and semi-precious stone. These are not weapons of war, but tools for a different kind of survival. One such amulet, a piece of carefully polished rock crystal, would have been cool and smooth to the touch, catching the light with a soft internal fire. For the Huns, the world was not an empty space. It was a living landscape thick with spirits both benevolent and hostile. Every rustle of the grass could be a message, every strange cloud formation an omen. In such a world, you did not merely fight men, you also navigated the invisible forces that governed fate, health, and fortune. This crystal amulet was a navigational device for the soul. It was a concentrated piece of the earth's power, believed to act as a shield against the evil eye, a charm to bring success in the hunt, or a conduit for spiritual vision. In the shamanistic traditions of the steppe, certain stones were thought to have specific properties. A dark, opaque stone might ground a person to the earth, while a clear, luminous crystal like this one could help a shaman see into the spirit world, its clarity reflecting the clarity of true vision. This small object was deeply personal, a private pact between the wearer and the unseen. It asked for protection on a long journey, for luck in a coming battle, or for health in a world without medicine. It was a way for an individual to exert some small measure of control over a universe that was often vast, unpredictable, and dangerous. The warrior buried with his crystal was not just armed with a sword and bow. He was equipped with a spiritual defense, a piece of the earth's magic meant to guard him on his final, greatest journey into the afterlife. How many of these silent, powerful stones have we overlooked, mistaking them for simple beads in the grand spectacle of gold and steel? The warrior's personal amulet held a universe of belief, but his most trusted tool was often far more brutal and direct. Near the banks of the great Danube River, a key artery of the Hunnic Empire, a simple iron axe head was pulled from the earth, its edge still sharp after centuries buried in the mud. This was not a ceremonial object adorned with gold. It was a workhorse of iron, a tool of terrifying versatility. Its design was brutally efficient, a single piece of forged metal with a narrow, heavy head and a long, straight cutting edge. On one side, it could split a man's shield or skull with a single, cleaving blow. On the other, it could just as easily fell a tree for a campfire or shape a wooden tent peg. This axe embodies the life of the common Hunnic warrior, a man for whom the line between a tool for survival and a weapon for war was almost non-existent. While the chieftains glittered in gold and riveted helmets, the backbone of the Hunnic army was equipped with this kind of practical, multi-purpose gear. His primary weapon, of course, was the legendary composite bow, a masterpiece of engineering that gave him unmatched range. But for the close, brutal work of melee combat, he relied on weapons like this axe or a sturdy spear or a long, single-edged knife. His armor was often minimal, perhaps a simple leather cuirass or a helmet made of hardened leather strips, offering some protection without sacrificing the mobility that was his greatest tactical advantage. This common warrior did not ride to war to acquire beautiful Roman glass or golden brooches. He fought for a share of the plunder, for status within his clan, and for the survival and expansion of his people. The well-preserved iron of this Danube axe tells a story of grit and adaptability. It reminds us that the Hunnic storm that broke upon Rome was not just a few brilliant leaders and their ornate regalia. It was a tide of thousands of practical, hardened fighters, each one a master of his horse and his tools, whose combined strength could topple legions and change the course of history. What other unadorned, everyday objects are we overlooking? The silent witnesses to the rank and file who built an empire with their hands, but the warriors were not the only ones who wore symbols of power. In a quiet grave far from the battlefield, a different kind of splendor was laid to rest, a golden diadem that once encircled the head of a noblewoman. This was no simple circlet, it was a masterpiece of the goldsmith's art, a delicate band of gold so finely worked it resembled lace made from precious metal. The entire surface shimmered with intricate filigree, where tiny threads of gold were twisted and soldered into complex spirals and knots. Sprinkled across this golden tapestry were minute spheres of gold, a technique called granulation, catching the light like a field of tiny stars. And set at its center, like a captured heart of fire, was a deep red garnet, its rich color a stark contrast to the brilliance of the gold. This was the crown of a queen, or at the very least, a woman of immense standing. Its very existence forces us to rewrite our understanding of Hunnic society. History, written by their enemies, speaks almost exclusively of men, of warriors and kings. This diadem speaks for the women. It tells us that high-ranking women held significant wealth and social prestige. They were not hidden away, but were central, visible figures who participated in the display of their clan's power. Their fashion was not an afterthought, but a deliberate language. To wear such a headpiece was to communicate lineage, wealth, and an unassailable place at the very top of the social hierarchy. The care taken in its creation, the obvious skill required to execute such delicate work, suggests that there were specialized artisans within their mobile society whose sole purpose was to adorn the elite. This diadem is more than jewelry. It is a silent testament to the forgotten half of a mighty empire, a glimmer of gold that insists we remember the powerful women who helped build it, whose stories were never written down but were worn for all to see. What other secrets of their lives are still buried, waiting for a glint of gold to bring them back into the light? Amidst the gold and the iron, a humble ceramic pot tells a quieter story. This hand-formed vessel, fired in an open pit and decorated with simple stamped designs of wolves and deer, was the backbone of daily existence. It did not hold a king's treasure, but a family's meal, carrying water from the river or stew for a traveling warband. In a society constantly on the move, such objects were both practical and profoundly personal. Every nomadic family would have had a few of these pots, shaped by hand without a wheel, their imperfections a testament to a life lived in motion. The animals stamped into their wet clay before firing were not random decorations. A leaping stag was more than just a graceful form. It was a symbol of speed, fertility, and a direct connection to the spiritual world of the forest. A stylized wolf with its sharp snout and loping stride represented the pack loyalty, ferocity, and hunting prowess that were essential for survival on the open steppe. Even the horse, ever present in their lives, would appear in these designs, its form simplified into a powerful, flowing line. This was art for the people, not just the elite. It reveals a shared visual language, a common set of beliefs that permeated every level of Hunnic society, from the chieftain in his golden diadem to the common warrior drinking from a clay cup. The aesthetics of these pots are a world away from the intricate goldwork of the nobility. The patterns are bold, graphic, and designed to be read from a distance, their rhythmic stamping creating a sense of movement and life. This everyday pottery forces us to look past the grand narratives of empire and conquest, and to see the Huns as a people with their own domestic rhythm, their own artistic traditions carried in the most basic of containers. What other stories of family, travel, and belief are sealed within the coarse clay of these simple, enduring vessels? Even the most practical elements of Hunnic life were transformed into expressions of identity. Among the most personal relics we find are the delicate bronze and gold ornaments crafted not for a warrior's body but for his saddle. These were not mere decorations. A simple bronze plaque, its surface stamped with a repeating spiral pattern, would have been riveted firmly to the wooden frame of a saddle, its geometric rhythm catching the light with every movement of the horse. More elaborate pieces took the form of stylized eagles or coiled predators. their forms abstracted into pure, powerful lines that conveyed speed and ferocity even when standing still. Every piece of tack, from the bridle to the girth straps, could be adorned with these small, shimmering declarations of status. This was art in motion, designed to be seen and understood from the back of a galloping horse. The horse was the absolute center of their universe. It was their transportation, their wealth, their military advantage, and a living measure of their place in the world. To adorn a saddle with such care was to honor that partnership. It signaled that this was not just any horse, but the prized mount of a man of importance. The quality of a rider's equestrian gear was a direct reflection of his social standing. A chieftain's saddle would gleam with gold and intricate animal figures, while a common warrior's might bear simpler, stamped bronze patterns. But both participated in the same cultural language, one that proclaimed their identity as people of the horse. These small, functional artworks are a direct line into the Hunnic soul. They tell us that their connection to their horses was not merely utilitarian. It was a sacred bond, a core part of their identity that they celebrated and embellished at every opportunity. In a world without cities or permanent monuments, the most important canvas for their art was the very animal that carried them to destiny. Even the most hardened warrior had moments of rest. In the quiet of a temporary camp, far from the clamor of battle, a different kind of contest took place. Archaeologists have uncovered small, carefully carved cubes of animal bone, their faces marked with simple circles or drilled pits to denote numbers. These are Hunnic dice, a humble relic that opens a window into the private, social world of a people we so often picture only on horseback. These were not the sterile tokens of a formal board game. They were tools for gambling, for laughter, and for the fierce, friendly competition that binds a community together. Imagine the scene. The day's ride is over. The horses are tended, the meal is eaten, and the fire crackles against the vast darkness of the steppe. In that circle of light, warriors would gather, not as a military unit but as companions. They would cast these bone dice onto a felt mat or a spread-out cloak, the clatter of the bones a sharp counterpoint to the low murmur of conversation. Wagers would be placed, not with coins perhaps, but with arrows, with strips of dried meat, or with promises of future favors. The stakes were about more than material gain. They were about honor, about reputation, and about the sheer human need for play. In a society built on discipline and the constant threat of violence, these games provided a vital pressure valve. They allowed for the expression of rivalry and luck in a controlled, safe environment, strengthening social bonds and reinforcing hierarchies outside the chain of command. A young warrior could challenge a seasoned veteran over a roll of the dice, and for a moment their status on the battlefield was secondary to the whims of fortune. These simple bone cubes remind us with profound clarity that the Huns were not a faceless horde. They were fathers, brothers, and friends who sought connection and distraction in the few quiet hours they were given. They laughed, they boasted, they groaned at a bad roll. In the end, this small set of dice may tell us more about their humanity than any sword or golden treasure ever could. What other echoes of their laughter are still buried, waiting to be heard? Our final relic offers no easy answers, only a deeper silence. From a chieftain's grave in the Hungarian plains, archaeologists recovered a heavy bronze object that defies all classification. It is not a weapon, nor a piece of jewelry, nor any recognizable tool. Its form is a complex puzzle of curves and angles, a central hollow shaft with a series of protruding, wing-like flanges, and a single, small clapper suspended inside on a fragile bronze wire. The entire object fits neatly in the palm of a hand, its surface worn smooth by time and unknown use. Its discovery among other elite grave goods confirms its importance, but its purpose died with the man who owned it. The theories surrounding it are as varied as they are speculative. Some argue it was a ritual rattle, shaken by a shaman to mimic the sound of wind or spirit voices during sacred ceremonies. Others propose it was a specialized tool for knotting the tough sinew used in their legendary bows, its flanges providing leverage. A more daring hypothesis suggests it was an early astronomical device, a simple calculator for tracking the lunar cycles that governed their nomadic calendar. Yet for every theory, there is a compelling counter-argument. The clapper is too delicate for vigorous shaking, the shape is inefficient for a practical tool, and there are no markings to suggest celestial observation. This bronze enigma is the perfect conclusion to our search because it embodies the ultimate truth of the Hunnic Empire. For every golden stag or warped skull we decipher, there is an object like this, a locked box with no key. It represents the vast, silent territories of their culture that we can only map with guesswork. We have assembled 25 pieces of their story, but this final relic is a stark reminder of the hundreds more we are missing. It is the humbling symbol of all we do not know, and perhaps will never know, about the shadow empire that rode out of the east and vanished back into the wind. These 25 relics form a mosaic of a phantom empire, a portrait assembled from scattered shards of gold, iron, and bone. When we step back and view them together, a fragmented but compelling image emerges, one far richer than the simple barbarian horde of Roman nightmares. We see a society with a sophisticated spiritual life, expressed through golden stags and spirit mirrors. We witness a terrifying military machine, built on the engineering of composite bows and the psychological impact of shaped skulls. And we observe a complex social structure where power was proclaimed through golden diadems, clan tamgas, and ornate saddlery. This is not the portrait of a chaotic mob. It is the image of a formidable civilization built for motion, a culture that mastered the art of survival and conquest on an epic scale. Yet assembling this picture is a task of immense difficulty for archaeologists, a puzzle with most of its pieces forever missing. The first and greatest challenge is the nomadic nature of the Huns themselves. They built no stone cities, no sprawling temples, no permanent archives. Their entire world was portable, carried on the backs of their horses and in the wagons of their camps. When they moved, they left behind only what was lost, discarded, or deliberately buried with their dead. This means the archaeological record is not just thin, it is fundamentally skewed toward their final acts, the objects they chose to take into the afterlife. We see them almost exclusively in death, a silent and ritualized version of their lives. Compounding this physical absence is the deafening noise of their enemies. Almost everything written about the Huns comes from the pens of terrified Romans and Greeks who described them as monsters from another world. These sources are filled with bias, exaggeration, and a profound cultural misunderstanding. They tell us how the Huns were perceived by those who feared them, but they tell us very little about how the Huns perceived themselves. Our only counterbalance to this distorted history are the objects they left behind, the relics that speak with a silent, material truth. The final, haunting challenge is the sheer speed of their rise and fall. The Hunnic Empire blazed across the historical sky like a meteor, brilliant and terrifying, and then it was gone. It did not have centuries to build layers of settlement, to develop a lasting bureaucratic tradition, or to leave behind a continuous material culture. It dissolved back into the steppe, its people absorbed by other groups, its political structure shattered in a single generation. This rapid collapse means the clues we have are not only few, they are also incredibly cryptic. A golden brooch, a bone die, a bronze rattle of unknown purpose, these are the whispers of a lost empire. They are the only legacy of a people who reshaped a continent yet left almost no trace of their own voice. They challenge us to listen more carefully to the silence, to look more deeply at the small, hard things that survived, and to acknowledge that some histories are written not in words, but in the choices of what to bury with a king, what to bind to a bow, and what to place on the head of a queen. These 25 mysterious relics each add a crucial piece to the puzzle of the Hunnic Empire. The golden stag whispers of a rich spiritual world, while the sea-sauna helmet and the bone laths of the composite bow testify to a terrifying military genius. The elongated skulls force us to confront their complex identity, and the humble clay pot reveals the shared artistic language of an entire people. Even the final, unidentifiable bronze object, for all its silence, speaks volumes about the vast cultural territories we have yet to map. Together, they transform a shadowy name from history books into a civilization of astonishing depth and complexity. The enduring fascination with Attila's people lies in this very tension, in the ghostly imprint they left upon the world. We are drawn to the mystery, to the challenge of reconstructing a mighty empire from the fragments it left behind. So we turn this final question over to you. Which of these relics captured your imagination the most? Was it the golden diadem of a forgotten queen, the silent language of the tamgas, or the warrior's personal crystal amulet? What are your own theories about these ancient enigmas? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you are captivated by history's greatest puzzles, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the lost worlds that still whisper to us from the past.